Kraven the Hunter, a masterclass in bad parenting. The story kicks off with young Sergei and his brother out hunting, because nothing says quality family bonding like looking for things to kill. Suddenly, a massive lion appears. Sergei, playing the role of the self-sacrificial martyr, shoves his brother behind him. He's got a gun, but apparently he's a terrible shot because he decides the best tactical move is to put the weapon down and have a staring contest with the king of the jungle. Surprisingly, the lion is into it. They're having a moment, until Sergei's father Nikolai decides to ruin the vibe. Nikolai, the undisputed heavyweight champion of toxic masculinity, takes a shot, misses the kill, and succeeds only in making the lion very, very cranky. The lion decides Sergei looks like a delicious consolation prize and drags him off. Instead of, being a father, Nikolai basically shrugs and assumes his son is a goner. But wait. Through the power of extremely convenient biology, the lion's blood seeps into Sergei's wounds. Their genes do a little salsa dance. The lion realizes the kid now tastes like family and leaves, and Sergei survives. Does Nikolai give him a hug? Of course not. He's annoyed Sergei didn't die with more wolf-like charisma. He basically tells the kid to stop being a weakling and get ready to run the family mob business. Naturally, Sergei is traumatized. Between his dad's constant screaming and the fact that his mom checked out of life early due to Nikolai's charming personality, Sergei has had enough. After a dramatic tantrum in his room involving a mysterious card, because every edgy protagonist needs a collectible, he decides to run away via the roof. He falls, but instead of ending the movie early by hitting the pavement, he lands like a cat. He's officially a furry now, I guess. He treks to the Russian Far East to find his mother's hometown, because what better way to find peace than moving to a frozen wasteland? While enjoying the scenery, a massive herd of buffalo charges at him. Instead of being turned into a Sergei-flavored pancake, the lead buffalo decides to be his bodyguard. This is when Sergei realizes he's basically a Disney princess with a gym membership. He can talk to animals, throw spears like an Olympic god, and hear individual water droplets. Truly a very useful skill for someone who spends 90% of their time in a desert or a forest. Suddenly, he hears a gunshot a kilometre away because his ears are now high-def microphones and finds poachers. He's too late to save the buffalo, and the poachers tell him to get lost. Big mistake. Sergei's inner beast, which is mostly just repressed daddy issues, comes out. He goes full primal, shreds the poachers, and vows to be the animal's Batman. Fast forward 16 years, Sergei is now Kraven, a legendary assassin who looks like he spends $400 a month on beard oil. He's so dedicated to his hunts that he sneaks into a prison just to get to a target. Inside, he meets a cellmate who looks like he eats gravel for breakfast. Kraven makes a bet. I'll be out in 3 days, or you can do whatever you want to me. Bold move, Kraven. Very risky for a man with such nice hair. The next day, 2 thugs named Sion's lackeys try to bully him. Kraven lifts them up like they're groceries, but a guard stops the fun. He's eventually brought to the kingpin of the prison, which is exactly where he wanted to be. In a flurry of CGI and bad decisions, Kraven takes out the bodyguards, throws the boss off a balcony, and crawls up the wall like a 6-foot-tall lizard. He tears through an escape route, proving that prison security is apparently just a suggestion in this universe, the blizzard, the law, and the genetic hoses. So, our boy Sergei, now officially Kraven, because Sergei from accounting doesn't strike fear into hearts, breaks out of prison in record time. But nature decides to humble him with a massive blizzard. He's wandering around, blinded by snow, probably wondering why he didn't just stay in his heated cell. wipes off his tattoos, leaves a mangled corpse behind to trick the feds, because faking your death is the hello world of assassin tropes, and heads back to the grasslands. Once there, he finds more poachers. Seriously, do these guys have a newsletter? They're everywhere. Kraven goes full National Geographic unrated and wipes out a truckload of them in seconds. The leader flees in a pickup, but Kraven pulls a Santa Claus and makes a list, checks it twice, and memorizes the license plate. Cut to Kraven hunting down the leader and putting a crossbow bolt through his skull. Very subtle. He then tracks down a woman named Calypso. It turns out they have a shared trauma history. Years ago, when the lion was playing Carry the Child with Sergei, Calypso and her family were nearby. Her grandmother, who apparently ran a mystical pharmacy out of her purse, gave Sergei a magic elixir and a protective card. This elixir is the reason Sergei didn't die from being eaten by a lion disease. Kraven tells Calypso he's already avenged her mentor by killing some guy named Simeon in prison. Calypso, who is now a high-powered London lawyer, because why not, is a bit concerned that her childhood crush is a serial killer who handles legal disputes with crossbows. She's not exactly team murder, but she's clearly intrigued by the beard. Meanwhile, we meet Rhino. Now, in this universe, Rhino isn't a guy in a grey suit. He's a low-tier thug who turned into a science project. He's working for Nikolai, Kraven's dad, and decides he wants to be the boss. He meets a guy named Omar and demonstrates his power by unplugging a literal hose from his backpack. His arm turns into a rock-hard tumour. He takes a few bullets to the chest, digs them out like he's picking lint off a sweater, and then plugs the hose back in to look human again. It's the most high-maintenance superpower in history. If that hose kinks, he's finished. Nikolai, still the world's worst dad, meets with Omar. He smells a rat, literally probably, and gets ambushed by Rhino's assassins. Nikolai's younger son, Dmitri, does the sensible thing and hides. Nikolai, instead of being glad his son isn't dead, calls him a turtle and a disappointment. Honestly, at this point, Nikolai should just start a YouTube channel on how to ensure your children never call you on Father's Day. Rhino finds out Kraven is Nikolai's son and panics. He sends a bizarre assassin who can hypnotize people just by looking at them. Imagine being a legendary hunter and your greatest threat is a guy who's really good at the floor is lava with his eyes. Kraven, oblivious to the eye contact ninja, decides to visit Dmitri for his birthday. How does he enter the building? The front door? No. He climbs a skyscraper, bare-handed, like a lizard on espresso. He reunites with Dmitri, feeling guilty for leaving him with their psycho father. But the party ends and the next morning Dmitri is kidnapped. Kraven sees the getaway car and decides that instead of calling the police, he will sprint after the car. He actually catches it, rams into it like a human bowling ball, and tries to punch through the glass. He fails, because, glass is hard, but the effort was there. He tracks them to a dock and tries to stop a helicopter by holding it down with a rope. He is literally trying to Captain America a chopper. It works for a second, but he eventually gets tossed into the ocean like a discarded lures. The wet cat energy is strong in this one. Here's the next chunk of the script. World's Best Dad award goes to not Nikolai. So, Kraven is bobbing in the ocean like a piece of driftwood after losing a tug of war with a helicopter. He dries off and heads to Calypso, who has apparently transitioned from I'm a lawyer who hates your methods to sure, I'll help you find your kidnappers in record time. Realizing he's outmatched, Kraven goes to see his dear old dad, Nikolai. Nikolai, being the ray of sunshine he is, reveals he already knows Dmitri was snatched. In fact, the kidnappers sent him a severed finger as a thinking of you gift. Does the most feared mob boss in New York pay the ransom? Nope. Nikolai decides that $20 million is a bit steep for a son who cowers like a turtle. So he pulls a new phone, who dis, and lets the kidnappers keep him. Heartbroken by the fact that his dad is a literal sociopath, Kraven decides to go solo. Luckily, Calypso's resources, which I assume is just Google Maps for villains, find the base. It's located on a sheer cliff because of course it is. Kraven scales the wall like a lizard on a mission and starts ghosting the guards. He's moving so silently even the motion sensors are confused. But then, record scratch, the alarm goes off. Kraven stops being a ninja and starts being a lawnmower. He charges through the guards, catches up to Oma, and is about to get some answers when a rocket hits the building. Note to self, do not stand near windows during a prison break. Kraven and Oma are blasted off the cliff together. In a rare moment of I'm the protagonist, Kraven uses his own body to shield Oma from falling rocks. He ends up buried under a literal mountain of debris, and everyone assumes he's a Sergei Kravinoff. Meanwhile, Dmitri is chilling with Rhino. Instead of torture, Rhino decides to give a TED talk. He tells Dmitri they're the same, both unloved by their dads, both misunderstood monsters. Rhino reveals he's the result of a biological experiment that turned him into a walking tank, but leaves him in constant agony. He wants Dmitri to join the genetic freak club and take over Nikolai's empire. Enter the hypno-assassin, the foreigner. He shows up, takes off his glasses, and suddenly everyone is tripping on hallucinations. He warns Rhino not to kill Dmitri yet, because the boy is Kraven's only weakness. He also pulls out a rare Siberian plant that Kraven uses for his poison arrows. Apparently, the secret to tracking a legendary hunter is just botany. Kraven, now unburied, and presumably smelling like dirt, takes Calypso to his secret Siberian greenhouse. He's trying to recreate the magic juice that saved his life, but he's missing the recipe. Just then, Rhino and the foreigner show up with a new nightmare poison. Kraven gets hit with a poisoned arrow and starts seeing spiders. He's fighting wooden posts, hallucinating his worst fears, and generally having a very bad Tuesday. Just as the foreigner is about to finish him, Calypso pulls a Robin Hood and shoots the assassin. She feeds Kraven more magic elixir, and he wakes up just in time to see a massive herd of buffalo, yes again charging through the forest. Rhino, seeing the buffalo, decides to unplug his hose and go full tank mode. He starts flipping cars like they're hotcakes. Kraven catches up and tries to kick Rhino, which is like trying to kick a moving train. Rhino sends him flying 50 feet. It's a classic climax fight, where the hero gets pummeled for 10 minutes until he remembers he has a brain. Buckle up because the science fair project gone wrong is about to reach its peak. Here is the final act, where we learn that family loyalty is a myth, and everyone is probably on some form of performance-enhancing shrubbery. Part 4. The "oh, wait, my brother is actually a genius" finale. So Kraven is currently being used as a human stress ball by Rhino. He's getting tossed through trucks, pinned under debris, and generally having his spine rearranged. But in classic movie fashion, just as he's about to lose consciousness, he spots Rhino's Achilles heel, which is apparently just a soft spot in his DIY biological armor. Kraven summons his protagonist's strength, grabs a metal rod, and jams it right into the weak point. Rhino roars like a stubbed toe, giving Kraven enough time to pull out a steel cable. He wraps it around Rhino and, get this, ties the other end to a charging buffalo. Yes, the buffalo are back for their third cameo. Rhino gets dragged through the dirt like a tin can behind a just-married car. His ego, and likely his ribs, completely shattered. With the science experiment neutralized, Kraven goes to find dear old dad. He discovers that Nikolai was actually the one who leaked the prison footage to Rhino. Why? Because Nikolai wanted to see if his son was worthy, or if he'd just die and save him the trouble of disinheriting him. It's the ultimate test of faith, if your faith involves high-caliber sabotage. Kraven is disgusted, but because he has a moral compass, kind of, he can't bring himself to kill his father. But don't worry, karma has a bear on speed dial. As Kraven walks away, a massive bear emerges from the woods. Nikolai reaches for his rifle, only to find Kraven borrowed the bullets. Nature takes its course, and Nikolai's career as the world's worst father officially ends in a very grisly way. Fast forward 1 year. It's Dmitri's birthday again. Kraven shows up, expecting to see the timid little turtle he rescued. Instead, he finds Dmitri running the family mob business like a seasoned pro. Kraven tries to have a let's go live on a farm talk with him, but then he sees the truth. Dmitri is a chameleon. It turns out little brother wasn't hiding. He was studying. Dmitri had already undergone the biological experiments in secret. The kidnapping? Orchestrated? The ransom? A distraction. Even Kraven was just a pawn used to clear out the competition and Dad. The timid boy was actually a high-level manipulator who played everyone like a fiddle. The movie ends with Kraven realizing that his protected little brother is about to become a global catastrophe, and Kraven is just the guy who accidentally helped him get the keys to the kingdom. And that's a wrap on the Kraven saga. It's a bold choice to end a movie with, my brother is a sociopath and it's all my fault. But hey, sequel bait is real. Paternity tests save lives. If your dad's first reaction to you being dragged off by a lion is, welp, he's probably dead anyway, do not, I repeat, do not, try to win his approval 16 years later. Just take your lion blood superpowers and move to a different continent.